I am joined today by Christian Leva. Christian is a distinguished leader in KPMG's application security and controls practice. Prior to, he forged an impressive consulting career at Accenture and PricewaterhouseCoopers. Christian, thank you so much for being in my orbit and for joining me today on Cupalo Conversations.
Well, Lauren, I appreciate you inviting me as well, and I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. Well, today I want to talk to you because the last time we talked, I was so struck by your personal drive, your aspirations, the things you'd accomplish and the things you were striving to accomplish. And I think I said out loud, wow, you are quite the Renaissance man. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, our aspirations and accomplishments. Before we dive into that though, walk me through your journey. How did you get into consulting, application security, compliance? How did you get to where you are today?
Well, I appreciate the comment of Renaissance man. I will try to strive to hit that target. But my journey has definitely been an interesting one. Folks like to sometimes joke around that I'm a collector of a lot of strange hobbies and career fields and various stories. Because growing up, my father was an exceptional storyteller. As most Texans, especially East Texans, will tell you, it is a staple of the community that you have to be a pretty decent storyteller, both a tall tale storyteller and a factual storyteller. And my dad was an expert at often mixing the two, so you never knew which type of story you were getting. And he always used to say that the best stories are those that are rooted in at least some semblance of the truth and life experiences. And so fortunately in my life, I've had the opportunity to gain a lot of experiences and be able to craft various stories. As it relates to my professional journey, I actually started out as a game programmer, working for a couple of startups in the game industry as a programmer, designing games for the Nintendo DS. And that was really one of my first aspirations. Loved game programming, loved game design, and still do to this day. I do it as a hobby, making, video games on the PC for my kids. Nothing really published or anything like that, but I just enjoy doing it. And the reason I left that career is I quickly learned that I was a little bit stubborn, and I really only wanted to make the games that I wanted to make, not necessarily make games that other folks told me to make. So left that career and ended up getting an opportunity with Accenture. And I remember talking to the recruiter at Accenture, and they say, "Hey, I love this programming background that you have. I think you would be a great addition for this team that we're building, and you're going to be programming in PeopleSoft." And I said, "Hey, great. I am so excited. I've always wanted to do that. Can't wait." After the call, I thought to myself, I don't even know what PeopleSoft is. I barely can spell it, so I better go start researching. But I didn't let that stop me. Ended up starting out as an entry-level programmer in an onshore delivery center for Accenture, where fortunately they had a lot of great, robust training programs, taught me everything I needed to know about PeopleSoft. And it wasn't, I think, 10 months had gone by, and they said, "Well, we don't really need PeopleSoft programmers anymore. The project that we were thinking we were going to win didn't end up winning, and I think you better find a new skill set." So quickly scrambled and found a team that specialized in doing project management, PMO, for various consulting projects. So started doing project management, became a PMP and did the Six Sigma certifications and all this other kind of stuff. And I quickly learned after doing that for a couple of years that I like managing projects, but I would actually like to be on the projects instead of managing them. So I reached out to one of the leaders in Accenture Consulting at the time, and he took a chance on me and transferred me over to the consulting world, which back then resulted in 100% travel from day one and getting on various projects and being a PeopleSoft developer again. So I kind of went full circle. Started being a functional and technical developer of PeopleSoft. And I remember exactly when I made the transition into the security world that I'm in now. And that was, I was on a project on the West Coast, and we were implementing PeopleSoft GL, and we were towards the later end of it, doing system integration testing and preparing to do user acceptance testing. And my manager at the time came in, and this is a war room style room that all of our programmers in, there's probably 6 of us in there. He came in and said, "Hey, we forgot to do security. Who wants to learn how to do security? And if you ever seen the movie Talladega Nights, that was me. I raised my hand and said, well, I want to learn how to do security. And so then I got took to an even smaller room. It was more like a closet with me and one other fella. And over the next year, he taught me how to do security, and I was miserable at it to begin with. I think I crashed a couple of development servers on my journey to learn how not to do things, which eventually led to me learning how to do things. And that was my start in security. After that initial hurdles, I picked it up pretty well. Got transferred into a specialized team at Accenture that we were trying to build up, specializing in security and risk compliance. That got me on the radar of PwC. And PwC reached out to me with an opportunity to join a team that's all they did, was security, risk, and compliance. Joined them and learned about the other side of risk, which is on the compliance side. Being a part of a Big Four, of course, is much different than being part of a core consulting company. Learned everything there was about the Big Four, became incredibly excited about the possibilities and learned even more about risk and compliance. And then KPMG, of course, approached me with a more of a senior leadership position, and I jumped over to KPMG. And now I lead, like you mentioned in your intro, kind of lead one of our, what we call our ERP assurance practice, which allows me to do both of the things that I like: implementing security and controls for new clients, as well as assuring those controls and security on an ongoing basis. So, bit of a long-winded answer, as you'll probably learn, and I know you know this because we talk a lot, Lauren. I usually give a lot of long-winded responses, but that's the first one.
It is really incredible that you have found a career, like you said, that continues to keep you challenged, that there is this sense of adventure. So talking about accomplishment, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. What do you think of the idea that the root of all success is discipline?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a very, well, it's not even really controversial nowadays, but I have strong opinions in this area, so much so that for the last few years, I've debated writing a book about it, and I've gotten to the point where I've written a few chapters, but never really took it back then, which is ironic considering we're about to start talking about discipline. But I often get asked, whenever people realize what my schedule is, what my calendar is, and the fact that I have so many personal things that I do on top of all the professional things, I always get asked one of two variations: is how do you maintain your schedule, and how do you keep all of that in check and still accomplish everything? And then how do you stay motivated? That how do you stay motivated part, this is probably the controversial part. I hate that phrase. We all have these moments where we'll watch a movie or a scene or listen to a podcast or see a motivational speech, and we just get fired up to go do something right then and there. And that is phenomenal. It gets us off the couch, right? That is what motivation's purpose is to start you moving in a particular direction. But motivation, that rush of endorphins, is fleeting. It's a chemical reaction in our body that our body simply cannot maintain. It's just not how our bodies work. And when that motivation dies down, our progress and our momentum, if all we were relying on was that motivational kick, also stops and hinders. And the only thing, again, my humble opinion, that can keep us moving forward is discipline. And having a structure, having routine, having an internal fortitude and integrity that says, I was excited by this motivational rush of endorphins because I know I can do something else, or I could do something better, or I could do something different, whatever that goal might be. There was a reason that motivational spike hit us the way that it did. And if we constantly remember that and start and embed discipline into our routine and focus on building good habits, that is far better and far more instrumental than any type of motivation. So yes, short version of the answer to your question is, I believe discipline is the number one thing that we need in order to be successful, and we shouldn't get lost in the allure that is temporary motivation.
How do you leverage that chemical allure, that rush, with discipline? How do you ride that wave And then when do you set up the disciplines? So walk me through a process. Let's say you're going to tackle, because you have tackled so many different goals in your life. Walk me through an example of how you would leverage that dopamine rush and all of that momentum. And then when would you bake in the disciplines? Maybe even leveraging an example from something you've accomplished.
Great question. So the that rush of motivation can be an indicator if something is worth our time pursuing. Because, and what I mean by that, I would judge something worth our time pursuing if it's something we're excited about. Right? There's always other criteria, such as it's a good thing to do for other people, or it's a good advancement for your career, or it helps the world be a better place. But if you come down to it, if you're not excited about doing it, then you're probably not going to be successful at it. And so getting really motivated about something can be a good indicator that this is something worth pursuing. So the way I like to think of it and the way I channel that motivation is taking advantage of the short-term sprint nature of it. So in order to accomplish a goal, well, let me say any goal worth accomplishing usually takes a long time, right? And a long time is subjective. A long time might be a week, depending on it, or a long time might be 10 years. It really just depends. But it's not going to be, oh, I'm just going to go out to the store, I'm going to get this thing, and then it's done, right? What we're talking about takes a little bit longer of time. So use these short duration sprints to your advantage, just like we would on a project that uses an agile or a scrum methodology. The objective of that project is to implement this big, grandiose thing. But we break it into smaller pieces, sprints, and we go live and we focus on those little objectives first. And then once you have enough of those little objectives accomplished, you then have the great thing. So that's what I would do with this. And the way I would approach it is, as you get this motivation, apply it towards the development of a habit that needs to form in order to accomplish your goal. So I'll give an example. So in my youth, I had the pleasure and the opportunity to compete at the Junior Olympics, and I was actually back here somewhere over here. I was honored to have won 3 gold medals in powerlifting when I was 16, 17, and 18. So the Junior Olympics happen every year versus right now the Paris Olympics and others happen every 4 years. So the way I was able to kind of accomplish those is I didn't go out and start setting out to say, all right, I'm going to go start lifting this and I'm just going to show up and compete. No, I had to build a habit to say, all right, I'm going to start training this particular way. And that is what is eventually going to allow me to gain the strength to be able to do this. And then once I have the strength there, I'll go off and I'll do this thing over here. So it's about building those habits. And those habits could be, I'm going to wake up at a certain time. And that's it. I'm just going to set my alarm and I'm going to wake up. And that's my first habit. Get into the habit of waking up early. Now I have a certain amount of time. Once you get into that habit, turn it into another habit of, all right, now that I got all this extra time, here's what I'm going to do during that extra time. And so it just kind of builds one after another of using motivation to find out what you're excited about. Then once you're excited about something, figure out what are the habits you need in order to reach that. Divide those habits into acquiring those habits into sprints. And so you're going to start attacking this one habit. You're going to accomplish that. And you're going to move on to the next one. So it's these little incremental wins, doing 1 or 2% better every single day, that over time will lead to phenomenal success in moving that needle to whatever your goal you're trying to accomplish.
Jim Rohn once famously said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I don't think that's very commonplace today. I think we get into the workforce, we give a lot away to our job, and we don't often save or apply those same level of commitment or discipline to other things personally. So I am wondering, in that regard, would you agree? Would you agree that people tend to work harder on work more often than not than they do on themselves? And if they had inverse that formula, do you think people would be more overall successful? And we can talk about what success means afterwards.
It's an interesting question. My initial reaction is, I don't think folks and generally, and I would be guilty of this as well from time to time, I don't think we necessarily work harder at our day job. I think we spend more time at it. But that doesn't necessarily translating into working hard. You could put 12 hours to something, but that doesn't necessarily mean you put in 120% of that 12 hours. If you did, it probably would have taken you 5 hours. But that's, so that's how I think about it. I think we tend to spend a lot of time in our careers, in our day jobs, and there will be times where we're just putting in the time. I've been guilty of it plenty of times. I'm putting in the time. I know I could probably be doing more. I'm not working hard necessarily, but I'm putting in the time. If we were truly working hard at something, I would think it would be we are applying our skills and our knowledge and our outside of the box thinking into making what we're doing better. So one of the things I do at KPMG is I work a lot with innovation. And I like to say that whenever I'm developing innovation technologies, my customer, the person who's going to use these innovations, are not my clients. It's not my partners or MDs. It's not my leaders. It's my teams. It's my staff. It's the associates and the senior associates and the managers that are going to be using this. And so I work hard at developing innovations so that they are able to do their jobs better. So if you're working hard at something, I think that would mean that you're doing what you can to make what you're doing, to make the time that you're spending on this go further and provide more value or make it easier on yourself and something like that. And so at the root of your question was balancing working hard at day job versus bettering ourselves as individuals. I think it all goes back to we do and should spend the majority of our effort, because we can't necessarily spend the majority of our time, but we should spend the majority of our effort on bettering ourselves in some fashion. And that will passively or actively provide benefits in all aspects of our life, including our careers.
I think that's a great point. And I think it goes hand in hand with my next question, which is around goal setting, because I think that's a skill set, learning how to set goals, 1-year goals, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, and then knowing where you're orienting yourself, what your North Star is. So I would love to know more about your process for setting goals. And if you do have them, again, how they're broken out. Is it by 1 year? Is it 1 week? How do you structure your goal setting?
Well, I hope you've got some time because this is a complicated one and one that I love talking about, honestly. So the short answer is yes. I have professional goals and I have personal goals that I refresh constantly. So at the macro level, at the highest level, I have yearly goals and from a personal capacity and from a professional capacity. But the theme of all of the goals are usually moving me in a forward direction in some type of category. So just like what we were talking about, in order to be successful in work, we sometimes have to work on ourselves as individuals. And by doing that, we're going to have success in work, but also success in our personal life as well. So it's for that reason that I set personal goals and then I set professional goals. My personal goals usually revolve around learning or pushing my comfort zone a little bit. So learning a new skill or pushing my comfort zone. And these are things that I don't necessarily have a hard and fast, and that has to be done by February, it has to be done by March, something like that. It's more by the time this year is done, this calendar year is done, I want to have accomplished this or made a significant impact towards accomplishing it to the point where I have learned a new skill. So a few years back, for me, one of the bigger ones was I wanted to learn how to fly. So I wanted to be a pilot, get my pilot's license. I had been around planes all the time. I jumped out of a few planes in my youth with a parachute. So I figured, well, I've jumped out of enough of them that I might as well learn how to fly one of them. And so I set up across my personal goal of I'm going to become a pilot. Much to the little side road on this story, much to the love of my wife, who absolutely hates flying. And she, to this day, still rolls her eyes that I did this. But that was one of my personal goals. And the reason I chose that goal was because I really did love flying, and I still do flying, and I was able to get my pilot's license, and I love it. But the other aspect of it is it had been a while since I had learned something new, and I got a new certification. Right, in the professional world, there's thousands of certifications, and I've got opinions on certifications in the professional world. But there's something to be said about working towards a standardized set of rules and requirements and a test, like an actual test, and passing it and meeting these standards, especially as you get more senior in your careers, to kind of humble yourselves and go back to that basic level. So that's why I set out to do that personal goal. And I was able to get my pilot's license. And what I found is it actually enhanced my professional life as well. Not only did it give me another story that I can tell clients and work as icebreakers and have a common bond with other folks and all that normal stuff, but it made me actually a better listener and a better communicator. So, not to dive into the world of aviation, but when you fly, whether you're a personal pilot or a commercial pilot or a military pilot, you talk to ATC, air traffic control. You talk to people on the ground and they talk to you. Well, I would encourage everyone to do it because it's pretty cool. Google ATC communications, and there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos where it will show, or you can listen to the communications between ATC and pilots. And it is a unique language. In fact, this is really cool. It is the only true universal language that we have on this planet outside of mathematics. But what I mean by that is everyone in the entire world has adopted English and certain words as the de facto way of communicating air traffic flights. So it doesn't matter where you're flying, we're all speaking the same language, which I thought was pretty cool. But you got to learn this whole thing, and you have to be listening to them calling out to you while you're doing all this other stuff. So it taught me listening, taught me how to communicate clearly my intents and my objectives of what I'm trying to do while doing a lot of complex tasks at the same time. So multitasking. So that made me a better professional as well in my day jobs. And I would encourage anyone, if you're looking for goals or if you're looking for challenges, think about all the downstream things that could happen. Try to apply every lesson that you learn to all dominions and domains of your life.
Do you have to believe your goals are possible? Or is there ever a goal that you write down that you don't believe you're actually capable or not going to put the work in, the time in, the discipline in to achieve? Where does belief come into play when goal setting is in your practice?
Ooh. A part of me says that anything is possible, but if I set a goal out to I'm going to be a NASCAR driver tomorrow or an NBA player the day after that, it's probably not going to happen. I'm only 5'11", and it's not in the cards for me, most likely. So there's certainly you certainly need to see, is this realistic to what I want to accomplish, and what is the purpose of accomplishing it? So I'll give another example. My yearly goal this year, which kind of stumbled upon me, it was another love moment for my wife, who also hates this activity. I used to be really big into scuba diving in my youth, dove all across the country, and then just kind of stopped one day. 20 years later, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, you know what? I think I want to go scuba diving it again. And my wife hates scuba diving. She'll snorkel, but she hates scuba diving. So naturally, I did what any husband would do, and I risked the wrath of my wife, and I got recertified in scuba. So now, for the last few months, I've been scuba diving again. And this is why I'm telling you this. I set across a goal of, you know what? I want to learn as much as I can about scuba, just to make myself a technical practitioner of it, right? I want to learn as much of it as I can. So in my research and in my study and in my practice and talking to folks, I went down this rabbit hole of, you know what? I'm going to set a goal of, I'm going to go dive in a cave and do cave diving. as I started researching this down and noticing how many people die from doing cave diving and how that I'm in my 40s and not in my 20s and all this other kind of stuff, I realized that this goal may not be one that is attainable. However, if I march towards it and never step foot in a cave, everyone in my family and extended family would be extremely happy about that. But I will have still accomplished the overall objective, which was become a better practitioner of this particular hobby that I want to do. So it's okay if you don't reach the top of what or reach the specific goal that whatever you're trying to accomplish, as long as you are improving and you are bettering yourselves in the process, right? It kind of feeds into the whole topic of success and failure, right? I am a huge believer in fail and fail often, right? Because we learn exceptionally more when we fail than when we succeed. And someone who has gone their entire life without failing, I personally believe, just never tried very hard, as harsh it is as it is. So it all feeds into that. Set goals. If you don't make them, that's fine. You're still going to learn something along the way if you're doing it right.
You mentioned success. What is success for you?
Success in my professional world is kind of constantly learning new things and accomplishing ever more complex objectives. So I don't have in my mind a specific title or a specific salary range or anything like that. It's more, do I have the ability to impact change within whatever organization I'm in? And do I have the capacity to impact change in a positive way? So I need to be moving up the metaphorical corporate ladder in order to have the power to enact change, which means I need to have a certain amount of skills to be able to do that. And then I have to have the capacity, which means I need the technical knowledge, I need the industry knowledge, the market knowledge, a whole bunch of things, the leadership skills, all this kind of stuff in order to keep making changes that impact. So as long as I am doing those two things, then I consider myself successful in my career. And then personally, success for me is having a new story to tell every once in a while, at least once a year. Having a new story to tell once a year, because my wife is tired of hearing all my stories. So I have to constantly get new ones to tell. And now I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old and I have twin boys that are 5. And they are just now getting to the point where they want me to tell stories. And so I need to make sure that I have a plethora of stories that last until they're at least 21 before they tune me out, hopefully. Probably sooner than then with the daughter. But so I have to have enough stories to be able to tell them. So personally, I just want to keep making sure that I can build stories. And then will consider myself successful.
I love that. That is a very beautiful, and I've never heard it framed that way. I've heard a lot of descriptions of what success means or what an accomplished life would look like, but never in the framework of storytelling. And I think that's really beautiful. I happen to be a big fan of the movie Big Fish. It sounds like your father was a bit of a big fish himself.
Oh, yeah.
And that's great. There's an art form to storytelling. Like you said, you have to be captivating enough without erring too far away from the truth. Otherwise, people won't continue to listen. My last question for you today, and I had so many around this topic, but because we did talk about accomplishment, we've talked about success and goal setting. What is it that you wish people understood as a person of your level of accomplishment? And I know you're humble, and I'm not blowing smoke up your skirt. I truly think you're an incredibly accomplished individual and you continue to push yourself. But what do you feel people don't understand when it comes to achieving their goals? What's missing that you see or hear in a lot of people?
There's these pictures or memes or GIFs that kind of go around where it's a picture of an individual standing on the podium and their back is turned to the point of view of the artist or the camera, and in the front of them is this big crowd that is cheering them on, and it's a moment of great success for this individual standing at this podium. And the people in the crowd see this person, this pinnacle of the moment of success. This is what they aspire to be. And they see these steps on the podium, and in their mind's eye, they think, all right, if I were to able to walk up those immediate steps, just divert this crowd a little bit, walk up those steps, stand at that podium, I have achieved the same level of success. And it's that easy. From the point of view of the camera or the artist, there's a sticker on the person's back that says, it lists all these things that the crowd doesn't see. They see failures and forks in the road and hard choices that had to be made and personal sacrifices and professional sacrifices. And that's what got that person on that podium, not the stairs, the easy answer over there, or they fell into it or things like that. So I'm a strong believer in having mentors and having skills, qualities of people, or in whole individuals that you aspire to accomplish and you aspire to be. For me, I have a whole bunch of them, ranging from folks I want to sound like Matt Rowe from Dirty Jobs. I would love to have his voice, and I try to practice to have his voice. I'm way off. But if I could be a cross between him and Matthew McConaughey, who I also think is an exceptional speaker, then hey, that will be success, going back to the success story. So little silly things like that too. It may be professional figures, it could be sporting or influencers, whoever you aspire to be. Don't look at where they are now and try to emulate what they do today, because that's not what made them and got them where they are. Learn what their roots were. Learn what they actually had to do, what they had to sacrifice, what they had to improve on themselves in order to do that. I think I heard once that one of the famous speakers, I don't know if it was one of the two that I just mentioned, but they had a speech impediment. They had stutters and they had all these things. And you were to listen to them speak now, you never would have seen that. But they spent years battling with social anxiety and battling with all these things to get to where they are there. So what I wish folks would do on a higher level is understand that any amount of success, and whatever you define as success, is not going to come easy. You're going to have to work hard for it. Put in the time, as well as put in the effort. And be okay with failing. You will fail. I should hope you fail, because you will learn more from that failure than you ever did from every success as you went along. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that I wish folks would do more.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I've often reflected on this, or it's sort of a mantra for me now, but we're rewarded in public for what we've practiced for years in private. And it's a lot of what we don't see. People don't see a lot of what's gone on, behind closed doors to get to where they are. And I think we all want that podium moment, and we don't all want to go through the hellstorm that it took to get up there. So
that's a much more elegant way of saying what I attempted to say. So I'm learning new things.
Not at all. I appreciate that you mentioned, though, even down to how you speak. I think it's amazing how many things we can work on, and we have the power to work on our handshake, our posture, our eye contact, how we speak. We sometimes, I am guilty of this as well, think, this is kind of the finished product here. This is what I'm working with. This is kind of what we got. And to some extent, I will always be 5'3.5". I think maybe shorter, with years to go on. But within there is a tremendous possibility for improvement. And it is great to find mentors, even ones that you're not going to be ever sitting in your living room, but people that you can study the path. I really appreciate that you brought that up, not just where they are today, but what they went through to get to where they are. So that's fabulous advice. I really do think that. And studying people is something that, again, I don't know if a lot of people are looking at that as an avenue to grow, is study the people that they admire. So Christian, thank you so much for, like I said earlier at the beginning of this conversation, for being in my orbit, because you are tremendously inspiring. The fact that you have goals, I talk to a lot of people, and I can tell you that I can count on two hands how many people I know who set disciplined goals every year, and they refresh them and they revisit them and they achieve them. And so I think that sets you apart from a lot of people that I know. So I just wanted to tell you that, because you might not be aware, and you should be very proud of that.
Well, I appreciate that, but I will offer one cautionary thing to this. And I mentioned my wife a lot on this, but let me just make sure everyone is clear that is listening. My wife is my best friend. I love her to death, and this is why I talk about her all the time. And she has a pass because she's one of the few that can call me out on the way that I am. And there is a downside to having a lot of goals, that you could become a dreamer. And dreamers are okay. But if you set too many goals for yourself, or you set too many ambitions, you can start to be labeled as a dreamer. And the reason I mention my wife is she will run a mental checklist in her mind. It's like, okay, well, when's the last twinkle in his eye that he have? What was the last goal that he wanted to accomplish? What was this other thing? And there's been times when she says, slow your roll, boy. You came to me with this. I don't even want to hear it until you finish the other thing. And she's good on me to make sure I finish the things that I start. So that's the moral of this, is that we can get consumed in this endorphic feeling of having and setting goals, that we just get into this stage where we're setting goals and starting goals, but not finishing any of them. And this is a lesson I had to learn the hard way, that I had set so many goals that I failed in all of them. So don't become too much of a dreamer. Set goals, but stick with one. And if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, then formally abandon it and pick up something new. But don't just stop it because it starts to get hard and go pick up a new shiny object, because then you're just replacing the thrill of motivation with the thrill of setting goals and all this other kind of stuff. So that's my cautionary tale on that one as well.
I appreciate that. Your wife sounds phenomenal. I truly would love to meet her someday. I think between what you said about before, that she also seems like very supportive when you do go after a goal, like getting your pilot's license or getting your scuba certification again. Obviously, you have a very supportive partner in life, and also one to keep you in check, to keep the dreamer a little focused there. So incredible. Well, Christian, thank you so much again for everything. I'm so grateful for this conversation today. I'm so grateful to share this with people in my life. I think we can all learn a lot about how you set goals, and acknowledge with humility the ones that you set and don't accomplish, because that's a part of life as well. We're human beings and we're not flawless. So I also thank you for ending on that note. I think it's a good, like you said, cautionary tale. And I love the framework of going out there and finding new ways to make new stories. And I'm definitely going to adopt that going forward. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope we can do it again someday.